All right, guys, how's it going out there? Rooster here in Tennessee, roostercb.com, and looking at the infamous, notorious, very popular, very sought after Pride DX-300 BI Linear Amplifier. And we'll talk about this one in particular a little bit and talk about the Prides in general, some of the stuff that's great about them, and maybe some of the stuff that's not so great. But this one is available for sale. It is going to be local pickup only, just not worth the risk of shipping it. Most people don't want to pay the costly amount that it takes to properly pack and ship one of these and insure them. So no shipping on this one, guys. I know some people are not going to like that. Local pickup only, cash on pickup. You're going to get to see it run right here in this video, so there won't be any questions about the functionality of it or anything like that. And it is pretty daggum nice for one of these. Don't mind if I keep it. So one of those deals. If it sells, that's great. But if it doesn't, I have the perfect place for this thing to slide in and be used. It can be used interchangeably with my Thunderbolt 305s. So this one's in good shape. Blower, very nice and quiet in it here, and it does look like the stock blower or the same type of blower that they use when they're stock. Has looks to be a 250B tube in it there, which is what they came out with. You can use other tubes in them. We'll talk about that here in a second, how the tube works and everything. But there's some larger tubes you can use in here. Just it puts more pressure on the transformer when you use those. Now, I'm not aware of any upgrades or updates that have been done to it. You can buy these aftermarket boards that Nomad Radio in Kentucky is very well known for, and I highly recommend getting those put in if you decide to get one of these and keep it. If you're not just buying it to resell it, flip it, or you guess you can wait till it tears up and then you can put them in there. But there's 2 or 3 boards that he has that are upgrade boards that go in. And they extend the life of these amps, and they improve the performance severely. So I highly recommend those upgrade boards if you decide to run and keep a Pride DX-300. Pretty simple layout on the front of it. You have a meter that indicates the power output. Looks like that one's calibrated for average power, and we'll compare it to our watt meter here in a second. Plate, load, band selector seems to be intact. So if you wanted to use it, different bands, you could. Power on and off switch here, your receive preamp, which does work. I don't know if you guys can hear the static in the background on my radio. Sideband delay, I would be very cautious using one of these on sideband because it can easily be overdriven. We'll get to that here in a second. High power, low power, and standby. The preamp will not work with the amp in standby. Now, they made, I guess you could say, 3 different versions of these. 2 that are built the same but look different. They have another one that doesn't have this trim around the knobs. This one, to me, is a little bit harder to come by. The one that doesn't have the trim, I've owned more of those, I believe. Doesn't have this lines and trim around the knobs and switches. They also made what's called a Pride KW1, I believe, and it is set up to be a high drive amp. I think you can put 100 watts into it. This is a low drive amp. They use a tetrode, and without getting too technical into it, same family as the 4CX800, 4CX1500, 4CX300. All those tubes are kind of in the same family, the same type of tube, which means this amp is very drive specific. This one's set up for 8 to 10 watts average, and then 25 to 35, 40 watts PEP. Now that doesn't mean if you have, for example, a Galaxy 33 that does 35 watts peak, but it does 15 watts average, that's not going to work. It's going to end up turning the amp up because of the amount of average power that it does. When you run this one in particular, and most of these, just generally speaking, unless they've been modified, something like this is what you're going to run into it. Cobra 29, Tram D201As, stuff like that doesn't do a ton of average power. Cobra 2000, Cobra 1000, your older radios that aren't really going to exceed, 8 to 10 watts average when modulated. 2 or 3 watts dead key going in will be fine. Um, Again, they use a 250B. I don't know how good the tube is that's in this one. Probably decent. The power output of it's kind of mediocre for what I've seen these do. Most people probably say, well, that's what it's supposed to do. But I have seen some of them do a little bit more power. So the tube in there, different 250Bs, even when they're brand new, I've seen some of them that'll do 800 or 900 watts PEP, and then others that won't do but 500 or 600 watts PEP. So the Amperex 250R, to me, seems like the strongest 250 you can put in here. But this is probably got like an iMac or something in it, if I had to guess. But anyway, that's a little bit about the Pride. I've done videos on these before, but just a kind of a refresher of how they work. They have a bias adjustment in the back, and you can, finagle with that how you see fit. But we'll do a power output test on it and show you guys what this one is doing. Again, this is a really nice one. Is it the nicest I've had? I don't know. It's up there. I've had probably a dozen of these. I can actually remember, to not ramble here too much, I can remember the first time I saw one of these. I went to a break in Middle Tennessee, and it was actually the first steel tube amplifier I'd ever seen. It had to be 18 plus years ago. And I was so curious about one of these. And I remember it sold. Guy bought it for like $800 back then. So that $1 a watt, 50 cents a watt type crap that people talk about, that's a bunch of crap anyway. There's no set amount price per watt that an amplifier goes through. So I don't know whoever came up with that as a rule of thumb. That is way outdated and doesn't mean a hill of beans anymore. First of all, when you're rating them, however much money a watt, are you talking about average power, peak power? I don't know. But that goes out the window, especially with a Pride, because, hell, that was 16, 18 years ago, and somebody paid like $800 for one of these. So, what does that equate to now? A whole lot of money, probably. But, all right, that's enough talking, enough chitter chatter. Just figured I'd share that. Pride 300, let's see what it does. We're on a high. We've already showed you the preamp works. We'll just leave our sideband delay on, whatever. Average power first, 1,000 watt slug, bottom scale. Hello. Hello. Audio. Hello. So 60 watts, swinging 200 average. And then PEP. Hello. Audio. That's exactly what it was doing when I tuned it. So we've been sitting here talking the whole time, and it hasn't fallen off a bit. So I would say this Pride is in good working order. It could probably use a stouter tube in it. Like I said, that's kind of average for what a 250B will do. It's doing 200 watts average, 600 PEP. I'd like to see it do 250 average and about 700 PEP, but not all 250B tubes are created equal. And who the hell knows how long this one's been in there? It could have been in there since the amp was made. So it's not falling off in power. If I was keeping it myself, I'd run it like it is. Might invest in getting the boards put in it. I wouldn't say run it like it is, but I'd leave that tube in it until I had to replace it. That's it, guys. I'll list this one up. Local pickup only. It's not going to be available for shipping. Just a reminder. I appreciate it, everybody. Rooster in Tennessee, roostercb.com. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Questions, comments, shoot me a text, 423-299-3535. See you, bye.